And again, Manny was given this incredible performance all through this. So I'm like, how do I live up to this performance? This is Leslie Headland talking about her character. My wife was like, what do you want to say? I was like, I want to say that people don't want me to exist as a gay woman, as a woman in this particular space, working in this wild sandbox. There was a whole crew of people who believed in me, but deep down I felt like I am unaccepted for who I am because of what I believe in and wanting to wield my power the way I'd like without having to answer to the legion of people that just exist out there. This is a wild interview, and just a small warning, there is some sexual content in this interview, so if you don't want to hear that, then probably not watch. But before we begin, could you do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button? Look at that, we're almost there. It's a free thing you could do that helps out the channel, and I am very, very grateful. Now let's get into it. Leslie Headland sat down with Collider, and for some strange reason, the author of this article has me blocked. I don't think I've ever spoken to her in my life, but that's besides the point. In our first interview, you spoke a little bit about how the stranger is sort of an avatar for you and a character that you gravitate towards, which I very much feel the same way about villainous characters. But I'm really curious about how the character came together for you. Somewhere along the way, there was a mention that maybe he was more of a towards the end of the season, end of season 2 type character, and then things got reorganized. Of course, as we move to this second act of the season, he had to kill all the Jedi because the Jedi can't know he exists. We knew he was going to kill Jackie and Yord. Fan favorites. The Yord Horde. We knew he was going to kill all the red shirts. So there you have it. They're all red shirts. The other Jedis that don't have it. What were they in the credits? I might have to go back and check. Were they just like Jedi 1, Jedi 4? Is that what they were labeled as? Maybe. They weren't even given a proper name. I'm not criticizing her for that. So don't be like, Jay, you're so hypercritical. I just thought that was funny that we've taken a Star Trek reference and just finally injected it into Star Wars. She goes on to talk about, him being unmasked and who he is and how they wanted to reveal him in the series. Headland continues, when you ask about why I relate with this character so much, when he reveals himself and makes his statement of purpose, I had to rewrite that scene many times because the villain outlining his plan is so ridiculous. Really, the ultimate version of that is Heath Ledger's Joker. You're never going to hit that, but that's the goal. So when I was writing the scene with him, all the way up to shooting, I was on the treadmill being like, what is he going to say? And my wife, who is a huge part of my creative process, finally, she said, what do you want to say? There it is. There it is. Make this character about you, Leslie. What do you want to say? Stop thinking of it like you have to somehow tap into a different guy. Put yourself in this character. This is your self-insert. This is who you want to be. What do you want to say? And this is what I said at the beginning of the video. And again, Manny was given this incredible performance all throughout this. So I'm like, how do I live up to this performance? My wife was like, what do you want to say? Remember, this is you. This is your character. And basically she says, I want to say that people don't want me to exist as a gay woman. And again, just the stuff that I read at the beginning. And she just puts it out there. She's just dealing with a lot of her own insecurities, I'm assuming. I mean, you could correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong, but she's like, I'm dealing with stuff and this is what I want. So I'm going to put it in this character so it's out there for the world to see. And that's how they're going to interpret it. This is me. All right. I'm the Sith. Okay. And this is what I want. She says, by the way, I think everybody feels this way. I think that's why it resonates when you're honest about yourself and you get personal about it. When he says, I want freedom, that's what I want. I just want freedom. I want to be able to just be out there and be myself and be the type of artist I want to be without having to answer to anybody. That's why I feel so close to him. I also feel like when I get into leadership positions, I do get very vulnerable. I'm not afraid to cry. You know what I mean? There's this feeling for female directors that they can't cry. I was like, I'm going to cry because this is my dream. I can't believe we're making this. And I am truly so impressed by everyone who has put their faith in me. That's why he represents the Avatar. And if you remember, the Avatar represents her. Now, there's a lot of women crying about this because Kathleen Kennedy cried when she saw, I guess, the script or the presentation of this show. So everybody's crying here. But it just seems like she's got a lot of stuff she's got to work out. And instead of like dealing with her issues, I guess, she's putting it out there for everyone to see. Again, you correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what it sounds like. It's like I'm a victim here. I'm a victim because I don't want to answer to anybody. I just want to do whatever I want. I want freedom, so I put that in this character. That is quite the self-insert. I think that's what makes villains so compelling because there's a little piece of every writer in the villains kind of pushing an idea that they've had harbored within them. The villain is a great proxy for getting those feelings out. Headland, absolutely. I very rarely put myself into the protagonist because I think the protagonist has to be the protagonist. They might have a sprinkling of me, certainly Osha and May, the family conflict. Remember that because that's going to be a doozy later on in the video. The switching of sides, being really certain that you know one thing, the betrayal of the father. There's another one. Remember that too. The rejection of the fraternal protectionism and saying, I am now my own person. That's stuff I definitely relate with. But the stranger is my shadow self for sure. If there is ever any doubt that wasn't a self-insert, there you go. I mean, it sounds like she's putting a lot of family drama into this series. And I honestly don't have a problem with self-inserts as long as it's not a therapy session. The article continues, and I think some of you guys are going to get a kick out of this. She was asked, I want to know about the process of outdoing yourself every time. That's what made these fight sequences so impressive. Leslie Headland said, yes, we were shooting for immortality. We were like, we're effing going for it. We want to top the Duel of Fates. We want to top the train station in the Matrix. We will settle for nothing less. I will leave it up to the viewer as to whether or not we achieve that. But in my heart of hearts, I was like, we achieved it as far as I'm concerned. Well, what do you guys think? Did she achieve it? Did she? And Collider responds and says, you definitely did. Talking about the slow motion, the Matrix, things like that. But you definitely did, Leslie. You topped the Duel of Fates. Now, this is where the article gets very weird. And you might be like, Jay, it's already weird. Well, hold on to your buckets. While we're talking about fist clenching, kyber bleeding, oh my gosh. Leslie Headland answers, this was my dream. Again, we talked very early on in the writer's room about bleeding a lightsaber because to me, it's a very intimate thing. She talks about how she consulted Pablo Hidalgo on how to do it, and he gave her all the answers on how it could be done. She also says that we knew we wanted to do it, but we didn't have time, so they rushed it. Because if you look in the comic books, whenever they bled a crystal, it was very emotional and powerful, and it almost killed Darth Vader, but they're like, we didn't have time, so we just had her hold her hand, and it was done. She goes on to say, without getting too explicit, James Friend, who was the director of photography, I believe that's what she's saying here, DP of that episode, when he shot looking into the lightsaber, we've always seen the lightsaber as a phallic symbol. Headland says, exactly. You said it, not me. To look inside it, to look down it, to see it's, my goodness, that's what they think lightsabers are. If you don't know what phallic is, it's a sexual thing. Like, just look it up. I don't want to have to explain it. This is a family-friendly YouTube channel. But this is what they think it is, what it reminds them of. And this was Collider's chance. They wanted to get into the sexual talk. They are obsessed with sexual talk and Star Wars. This person brings up The Last Jedi and says there were a lot of people who talked about the moist cave and all of its self-discovery for Rey inside. That's what you guys thought of when you saw that? A moist cave and her self-discovery? That is what we're doing here with Star Wars? That's where we're going? Are you serious? Lightsabers and everything else? These people are obsessed with this. I don't get it. I thought this was a show for kids. Remember, every time I talk about Star Wars, you're too old to be talking about Star Wars. It's for kids. Well, not according to these people. Or maybe, I don't know. But it's pretty wild. Headland responds, exactly. She said, when we were talking to the VFX people, I was like, put veins in her hand. I want this to be so personal and intimate for her to bleed the lightsaber that way. The reporter says there's so much beauty into that. It's the weapon that killed her mother, and she's now reclaiming it as her own and creating something completely new. There's so many layers to that visual of that. Now, if you made it this far in the video, I want to congratulate you. But it still gets a little weird because remember earlier on where she says, yeah, I sprinkled some of myself in here that I can relate to, like the father-daughter relationship and protectionism and all that stuff. Well, she talks about that with Osha and Soul. She's like, this is the father-daughter relationship. As a woman evolve in their lives and develop their own personalities separate from their fathers, at some point, they have to reject that protectionism. And she goes on and talks about the scene where Soul's about to die. And the last paragraph here, it says, the daughter has to surpass him in some way. She cannot stay a little girl or an adolescent or young adult. She has to at some point say, I reject what you have told me I need to do to make you proud, to follow in your footsteps. She has to do that. Well, according to the show, she had to force choke him to death. I mean, is that what we're saying here? You got to get to that point in life where you look at your dad and say, I reject you. I'm going to do my own thing. Leave me alone. Stop hovering over me. Man. I don't know. There's a lot of father-daughter relationships that they just blossom throughout the years. Yeah, of course it changes. But I don't know if you get to that point where you want to force choke them. But maybe some of y'all out there can relate. Maybe. I don't know. Let me know. But that's the interview. If you want to read the entire thing, head on over to Collider. And it's over there. There's some other things she talks about, different parts of the show that she enjoyed. But I just wanted to focus on the self-insert stuff and see what you guys think. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Man, we're still talking about the Acolytes. It's just wild to me, man. The news is just wild to me. And more stuff just keeps coming out. I can't wait to get those numbers to see like how well the last episode did. Let's see what the viewership numbers are. And we'll probably go over that. Anyway, that's it for today. It's a long one. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all. This is Jay, and we'll catch you on the next one.